Hello, everyone's Forest Focus as Nottingham Forest secure a point against Arsenal in the race for the Champions League places. We'll discuss the key moments of last night's 0-0 draw, the return of defensive resolve, and assess the current picture in general in the company of, first of all, Pete Blackburn. Morning, Pete. How are you?
Yeah, good, thanks. Basking in what seems like a better and better point the more I think about it as the hours pass by. So yeah, pretty content overall.
Good to have you with us. Former Reds defender Kelvin Wilson. Morning, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Good, Matt.
Good to have you with us, chaps. Looking forward to talking about this. Yeah, as Pete says, I thought it was a good point. I was very happy with most of what I saw. I'm sure there'll be bits that we can discuss that was to work on, but just in general, Kelv, what did you make of it?
Yeah, I thought it was a great point, to be fair. Poor game, I think, but a good result. You'd have took it before the game, I think. Yeah, but overall, as a game, I think both teams probably wasn't on par to how they've been playing all season, but the point was a good point.
What about you, Pete? Just general emotions. I mean, we went into it. We were a bit nervous based on recent form. Did it play out? And probably, aside from actually winning the game, obviously the best case scenario in terms of performance of defensively, what we wanted to see from the team. Even if we'll get into attack, but in general, you got what you wanted to see.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the context of where we were coming from into the game is what it's all about for me. We'd obviously seen 2.5 or even more games where we'd looked really, really iffy against Bournemouth, a bit of that Southampton game, even going back to the Wolves game in sort of when we were looking at the pattern of things in hindsight, where we looked a little bit iffy in moments. And obviously, yeah, so the recent weeks have been tough going, haven't they? And we've had some real sort of low moments in terms of the collective and individual performances. So that's the context for it. And I think we were just much improved across the pitch, particularly out of possession in defence. And that is hugely reassuring, I think, because we know that that's the model for this Forest team, is to be incredibly hard to beat. That's sort of step one for us. And we're sort of coming out of this really tough run of fixtures where things haven't really gone our way, and it looks like maybe we've turned a bit of a corner on that front after some real difficult games. So I'm feeling really optimistic about that. Back to what we do best there, and it's just a case of piecing a bit of the confidence back together and some of that work on the ball that hasn't been great. So I think we're halfway there. I saw plenty of what I needed to see last night to make me feel like this isn't going to be a run of form that goes on, and really hampers our sort of chances of European qualification.
Morning to everyone in the chat. Good to have you with us. Glad to see Derek enjoyed the game and somehow got to meet Nuno. I don't know how that happened, Derek. Drop it in the chat if you want. A random early question that I know Richard wanted answering. What's the guitar over your left shoulder, Pete?
Yeah, it is a Strat, but it's a Mexican Strat, not a Japanese one, so it's a little bit lower grade than that, I'm afraid.
There you go. Good answer.
Answer. Great spot from someone.
It's a great spot from someone. Yeah. Bring that. We need that level of football expertise as well. Yeah. So that's some good guitar expertise, definitely. Did it have to be that way, Kelv, in terms of getting back to basics? I don't know how much you've seen of recent away games, but we've looked very open. Was it that? Did it have to be that starting point last night?
Yeah, definitely. I think when you concede quite a few goals, it's just getting back to basics and trying keeping a clean sheet and building on it from there. And they did that last night. I don't think at any point did they look like Arsenal had a lot of possession, and you say created chances. Apart from it in the post in the first half, I wasn't really that worried, to be quite honest with you. We looked solid. We looked organised as a defensive unit, very organised as defensive unit. I think just the usual counter-attacking was gone. We didn't see that. We tried to keep the ball a little bit more. But like Pete said, it's just building on the confidence. It's been a tough run of games, and it's late in the season now. So players are going to be tired. A lot of them have played a lot of games. Nuno hasn't changed the team much, apart from 1 or 2 players there and there. So players are going to start to tire a little bit this part of the season. But just getting back to basics, the clean sheet will give massive confidence after conceding, obviously, quite a few goals in the last few games. So hopefully we can build on that now going forward and start scoring goals again. But overall, as much as I say it wasn't a great game to watch as a football fan, it was a good performance from Forest to get back to basics.
Were you I saw a sentiment online, Pete. Online's never representative. A few people actually pretty disappointed and felt it was an opportunity missed. I didn't really see it that way in terms of the attack. I know we could have done more. Do you see that sentiment that we should have done more with the ball, or do we also have to factor in that Arsenal are like the best defensive team in the league, I think, alongside us and Liverpool. So that has to be a factor in our thinking as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think that's super harsh, to be honest. I mean, firstly, because of what I said about the context of where we're coming from in the last few games, it's a pretty big ask to not only restrict Arsenal to XG of 0.3 or whatever it was, but also then to go on and put in an impressive attacking performance. And also, I think there's a lot of the outcome bias, isn't there, always in football. I think it's worth saying that Forest actually, you could argue, had maybe even better chances than Arsenal did last night. And how many times this season have we won games 1-0 where Chris Wood takes that ball out of the sky perfectly and the finish is perfect, and it's a 1-0 victory based on an outrageous defensive performance and then the unbelievable efficiency and brilliance of Chris Wood. So I don't think it's miles off what we were doing, for lots of the good run, to be honest, albeit Kel's obviously right about the sort of counter-attacking not really being there, and there's a bit of a loss of efficiency, I think, and a bit of a loss of confidence on the ball. But it's really not miles away, and we're doing a lot of sort of, this Arsenal team are nowhere near their best. And it's worth saying that that's an absolutely elite defence, a very good central midfield, and then I think Trossard is arguably Arsenal's first choice left winger anyway. Him and Martinelli sort of share that job. Plus one of the brightest talents in English football, and then admittedly a lad playing in the middle who's sort of really not that sort of player and very unfamiliar with the role. But this is still a pretty good team, and like you say, best defence in the league. We've created a few moments against them. We've restricted them to 0.3 xG, where really I felt pretty comfortable for most of the game, to be honest. We've also massively turned around our performance when it comes to set pieces, which has been a huge issue of late. I mean, they were firing set pieces into the box, and we dealt with them all pretty well, apart from I think there was the one moment from Marino where he was totally loose, and then a slightly iffy one with Tierney. But generally speaking, I think there's so much progress to see in that performance and that result. And also worth looking around us. None of the teams around us are taking the opportunity to capitalise on our struggles. I looked through the last 5 games of all of the teams in that top 10, who I guess are the sort of European contenders. All of them have lost 2 or 3 of the last 5 games, and we're in a really, really good position. So the wider context is looking pretty good. We've suddenly, after the City game, we've got a run of games where we should be feeling like we can go out there and really put some points on the board and hopefully get some confidence flowing again. And last night, I think we put a lot of the sort of recent wrongs right again. So for me, that's got to be a pretty positive night all round.
Yeah, I think we're in a phase of the season where a lot of teams are playing each other in the top half, and we're going to come out of that. I've got a chart on that later that Paul Morley's done, so we'll come to that. What are you drinking, Steak Elf?
What am I drinking?
Yeah.
Oh, peppermint tea.
Very zen. I like it. Very good. Let's just dip into the chat for a moment and throw this one at Kelvin. Lee comments here about Nuno's use of the bench. We've not seen Jota as much. We've not seen Sosa for a good while. And Pat asks, have we seen the end of Jota and Sosa as viable alternatives? Lewis often talks, Kelv, about the core group that a manager trusts, and it gets whittled down as the season goes on. Is that what we're seeing now with the players that are starting and coming off the bench, do you think?
Yeah, I think so. There will be less players being used, especially as the season comes to an end. He'll just try and keep the players fit that are trusted, that has got them where they are at the minute. I think, later as the season goes on, like Lewis has said, like you've just said, Matt, it does get smaller and smaller. I even recall some managers as well would even cut the training groups down. Lads that aren't involved would go and train with the 18s or the reserves or whatever. So that's true with what Lewis has said, and it looks like that's the case with what Nuno's doing, because it's like you say, he's using less and less subs, and the lads that have been coming on in the past haven't. So the core of his team has got, the training will be very, very light now to the end of the season. And he'll just want to tick them players over, and hopefully they can just get them over the finish line.
tricky balance for a manager, though, to keep those players engaged, do you think, Kelv, or not?
Yeah. Well, the players that he wants to come in, or the players
that are a bit on the fringes, like say we need Jota or Sosa to start a game, especially Sosa. He feels like he drifts out of the picture more. Is it going to be a challenge for Nuno to keep them engaged, or are they going to be up for it no matter what?
But that's where my management comes in, mate. That's, when you're a manager, especially when you're managing top players, the technical side and all of that, you don't need to coach them players because they've already got it. The top managers like Alex Ferguson, when you listen to ex-players talk, it's the man management to talk about how you treat players, how you look after them, how players want to play for you. So that'll be, I don't know Nuno, I've never played under, never come across him. So that'll be a big factor for him. How his man management will be with them players, how he will treat them. Will he still involve them in training? Will they go and train with the other lads? Things like that, little small details. But I'm sure, he'll keep them around. Where they are in the league, he needs every player. If an injury happens, you need to count on these players to come in and be up to speed, hit the ground running. So I'm sure Nuno's experience, he'll know that, and I'm sure his man management skills would be good with them players if they're called upon. And as them players as well, they'll want to come in. They won't. No player wants to go on that pitch and just thinks, I don't like the manager, or I don't like the football club. I'm just going to walk around here and kind of toss it off. Not one player, even if they don't like the manager, even if they don't like the football club, you've got to do it for yourself. If you want a move, you've got to play well to get the move. If you want to get into the team, you've got to play well to get into the team. So it's always, no player's ever gonna kind of toss it off. But the biggest thing is the man management for me. If Nuno, keeps these players ticking over, keeps pulling them in for little meetings, telling them you're still important, and that making them feel important, it goes a long way.
You're only speaking for yourself here, Pete, not the whole fan base, but do you retain faith in Jota and Sosa to come on and make a difference? Maybe not in games against Arsenal and City, but maybe, Ipswich away in the league, stuff like that. Is there still a big role for them to play in your mind, or are we probably, as Pat says, seeing probably the dwindling of their minutes significantly now?
Well, I hope that there isn't a massive role for them to play, because that means that we've kept that core group of 13 or 14 players fit and firing as the season wears on, and that's going to be absolutely crucial for us. I think that's fair to say. But I think we've been a bit down on them, haven't we? And I'm as guilty of that as anyone, because we've seen a few games where they've come on and struggled to make a difference, and not really looked like they're going to be sort of up to the challenge of taking the place of a Hudson-Odoi or a Elanga, especially given Elanga had that sort of run of form where he just suddenly really found his best, I guess. But I think there's, I think there are players that have potential. I'm not convinced that they're sort of really going to be the long-term answer for us, either of them, to be honest. And I don't think that either of them are likely to have it in them to take that spot in the starting lineup. But we don't need them to do that, do we? As you say, we need them to be an option off the bench. And I think they've both shown that they can be that. We know that Sosa is an option as a goal threat. Particularly, he's really good at ghosting into the back post. He's also has that ability to sort of cut in and get shots off. So I think he brings an option in that sense. Jota, I think, probably centrally rather than out wide. I'm really not convinced of him as a winger with his sort of lack of pace and trickery out there. But I think centrally he can come on and be a bit of a chaos agent. He's a lot of hustle and bustle. And I think against certain teams, they're not, they just don't like it when you bring that guy on from the bench and suddenly there's all this energy and he's leaping like a salmon for every header and all that sort of stuff. So, I mean, the faith is there in that, they're what we've got, and they've shown that they can have an impact. I just think they are, a decent step away from what we've got in our best 11. And, there's not much we can do about that at this point, because they were signed to be those guys, the sort of change makers in a team that was, probably halfway up the table rather than third in the table. That's no fault of theirs. So, I mean, I think that's how I see it now. But I think ultimately the key for Forest in this run-in is just going to be, can we keep those players in that first group of 13, 14, 15? Can we keep them fit? Because we're going to, as Kel says, I don't think we'll be venturing far out of that very often, if we possibly can.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's a good topic for another day about the role of the, Sosa, Jota, Moreira, Alex Moreno, if he's here next season, what their role is next season if we get into Europe. But we'll come to that another day. If people are interested in how, go on then, Pete.
Sorry, I was going to say it's probably worth saying as well that perhaps the reason that we've seen less of them recently isn't just because Nuno saw those few games that we did and they didn't seem to have a great impact, but just because the teams we've been playing against have been among the very best in the league. They're all really impressive, stable football clubs with good identities and have, they're really tough oppositions, and that makes it much harder to trust players like that, doesn't it? But hopefully we've got that run of games coming up where maybe we might be able to get a goal or two up earlier in games and sort of spread the minutes around a little bit and give those opportunities again.
Yeah, it also makes it harder to get results as well, which is why I've not been panicked, particularly by recent results. Maybe a bit more by performances, but we saw better last night. If people are interested in how Derek got to meet Nuno, which I've referenced a few times, it was organised by Wendy Taylor. We'll give a shout out to Wendy, who's not Nuno's PA. She's the head of media and does a lot more at the club. But that made me smile. Shout out to Wendy and the people at the club there. I'm glad Derek had a really good night. And thanks very much to James for gifting 5 memberships. That's very generous, James. Appreciate that. Hopefully people have grabbed them. Right, we'll talk about defending set pieces with Kelvin. The other side of this advert for the Trent Navigation, we played last night and people liked it, around what the match day experience is.
Hey up me duckies, a quick rundown of match days at the Big Shed. We're open from 10, serving full English breakfast, teas, coffees and, believe it or not, beers. Father's Footy Quiz is followed by the lunchtime kickoffs, and the outdoor kitchen is fired up from midday, serving sourdough pizzas, burgers, hot dogs, pies and sausage rolls. Lovely. Pints start at £4. We have a great selection of cask ales and lagers to lubricate the vocal cords for a bit of a sing-song before the game. After the match, we've got some great DJs and live bands booked. So get your send down to the Trent Nav. Win or lose, we're having a booze. And if we draw, we'll have some more.
It was good.
Wow.
It was good. Wow, indeed.
Well, they've really stepped the game up, haven't they?
Yeah, exactly. I'm now worried that
it's 12 minutes to beer o'clock as well, apparently, according to that. That's nice.
I'm now worried that I think anyone who emails Wendy Taylor thinks they're going to get to meet Nuno and Mikel Arteta and all that. So don't get your hopes up. That was definitely a one-off, I'm sure. Probably going to get an angry email off Forest after this. Right, let's talk about defending set pieces. We'll talk about set pieces first and then defending in general. Such a big area of the game, Kelv, especially with Arsenal and the threat they pose. And the way they go about it as well, this kind of weird NFL thing where they all go to the back post and rush and things like that. What did you make just in general of our defending of set pieces last night?
I think it was good. I think it was really good. I think the difference from last season is crazy. It's unbelievable because what did we concede last night? 11 set pieces, was it, or something like that? And
11 corners, yeah.
11 corners and not to concede a goal. And I think it was only maybe 1 or 2 chances, like Pete said, what was a bit where he was on the edge of your seat, is it in? But other than that, yeah, it was fantastic. I think the way Arsenal set up, it's a lot. Obviously, they work on them. They scored a hell of a lot at the start of the season. And their set piece coach was getting a lot of praise. But I think a lot of the way they set up is, as a player defending that, yeah, it's going to get into your head a little bit because you're in two minds. Do I go and mark him? Like, we're standing there now, kind of zonal. Do we go and mark them? But I've noticed that no one goes and really man marks Arsenal when they play them from set pieces. I've watched them a few times. And it's probably the sensible way to go zonal, because if you will go man for man, it leaves a massive hole in the middle of that pit and the middle of the 18-yard box. So it gives, if one player gets a run on one player, it's a goal, basically. So I think teams have noticed to go zonal against Arsenal because the way that they set up is just, it's unusual. They go, they stand in some crazy places, then attack where they know the ball's going to go. So I think obviously Nuno and his team did they did their own work on Arsenal and seen where what they do, and we went zonal and we dealt with it. We dealt with it really well. Obviously, a lot of work's been put into set pieces, defending set pieces from Nuno from the start of the season. Rightly so, with the amount of goals we conceded last season, and it's paid off. It's definitely paid off. And last night was the same. That they dealt with it really well. You know, we say they had 1 or 2 chances. Arsenal do have 1 or 2 chances in set pieces against teams because it's a big part of their game as well. Arsenal's game. That's why they have been so successful with it. So to deal with it and not concede was really good. It shows how far we've come with defending set pieces, and it's not a worry no more.
Yeah, I was going to ask, is it a bit of smoke and mirrors around Arsenal set pieces? But that would be unfair because they do score a lot of goals from it. But the mentality when you stood in the 6-yard box, Kelv, of having all those guys behind you and knowing they're going to rush you, do you have to change your approach at all, or is it still make the first contact or stop them getting a clean contact? No, like does nothing change fundamentally when you're defending a corner against Arsenal?
No, nothing changes. You know, you want the first contact has to be a Forest head. So yeah, nothing changed in that terms. The more the thing is, it's just you are conscious where they're coming from. So you know, you might change your body shape. Where if someone was just standing in there, you could be square onto them, and you know, have a little bit more contact. When you've not got contact with someone, it's not nice. You know, you like to, especially as a defender, you like to feel someone. You like to feel someone there, have someone to feel and work around. But when there's no one there, and you know they're going to be coming and they've got a jump on you. Anyone that's got a jump on you, a running jump to a standing jump, is going to beat you in the air. That's unless you've got a leap like Mikel Antonio had. You know, he had a great leap ground. So if anyone's got a run on you, they're going to beat you in the air. So it's just, you know, trying to get your body shape right. And when you do jump, maybe jump into a player. So if they do get contact, you're knocking them off balance as well. So they're not getting clean contact. So there's all little tricks like that of the trade. But yeah, the first and foremost is a Forest head on the ball. That's what you think, Matt. Yeah, definitely. But obviously, when they're set up different, you've got to take the approach of different body shape, open your body up so you can see ball and player, little things like that.
Just more generally on defending as well, Pete. We've discussed a lot about looking like they enjoy defending, and you know, it wasn't perfect, but it was much better. Even like Hudson-Odoi, who I've been sort of critical of his defensive work. I think he's told us that hard, but last night we did see him working back a lot more. I mean, there was a collective spirit and resolve to defend. It was obviously led by Milenkovic, I think, and Murillo. Just seeing them two get back at it was probably the biggest positive of the night, I thought
across the back four, big positives, to be honest. Milenkovic, I mean, can't be easy managing that entire game pretty much with being on a yellow card, with a slightly ridiculous yellow card early doors. And yeah, I thought we saw them sort of back to the best of that central partnership, aside from a few sort of terrifying balls played by Murillo, which he always has to throw a couple of those in to keep us on our toes, doesn't he? But actually, I one of the things I took from the game was the performance of the fullbacks, because we've talked quite a lot recently in this sort of period of difficult form about both of them having iffy games. I mean, Aina particularly has been miles off his best, which is, you know, admittedly his best was very, very, very good. In a few of those games, really struggled against Bournemouth in particular, and that Newcastle half as well. And early doors in the game last night, I was just watching Aina to see, you know, is this a player that needs a rest? Is there something going on with him? And I just thought, okay, he looks right back on it. There was in the first sort of 15, 20 minutes, there was a duel on the left-hand side of the box. I think it was probably with Trossard, where he nipped in and stole it really well. And then a little bit of moment where we had an attack, and he sort of shimmied inside the pitch and whipped a really nice ball on the ground to Elliot Anderson, really nice progressive pass. And then there was a sort of sprint race with Aina and one of their players, and he looked right on it. Really rapid into, like, you know, none of that sort of, they're a bit flat-footed on their heels stuff that we'd seen in a few recent games. And I just thought that those are such good signs, because Aina has been such a massive part of what we've done well this season, isn't he? And so getting him back to form seems pretty important. And Nico, I mean, I think Nico had a shout for being man of the match last night. Dealt with the set pieces really well at the near post. I thought he was much better in his individual duel in that one-on-one defending than he had been, particularly against Traore, who looked right back at it. So yeah, that's why I'm so encouraged by it, because we desperately need that defence to be everything that it has been for the sort of first 2/3 of the season or whatever it is. that's what it's all built on, isn't it? Those guys being aggressive and assertive and dominant and just not allowing the opposition to have good quality chances. We've had a couple of games where we've just been overwhelmed by really sort of high tempo, dynamic teams through that midfield. The defence have been exposed, and it all looked a little bit different. And granted, some of that is obviously down to the opposition and such like, but we can only do what we can do. And I take great reassurance from seeing them all look back on their games, communicating well again, all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, I thought it was really promising.
Just on the point about Milenkovic there, Kelv, he got that really early booking, really silly booking, I thought. I don't know why he did it. But in terms of managing his game, you can speak from experience there. I'm sure you've picked up the odd early yellow card in a game. What do you have to? How do you go about it? Do you have to completely change your game, or do you have to put it out of your mind?
Yeah, you put it out of your mind, really. It's not something that you're constantly thinking about. I think as a centre half, it's not as obviously getting a yellow card anywhere on the pitch isn't ideal. But if you're a yellow card early doors at fullback, it's a nightmare because you're playing usually against tricky wingers, quick wingers, and you might miss time a tackle. But being a centre half, you're pretty. You're facing play a lot. You're very rarely going for a 50-50 tackle as a centre half, surprisingly enough. So yeah, it's not nice to be on that early doors, but he managed it well. He's an experienced player. Just don't do anything stupid, and he didn't. But yeah, I thought him and Murillo was back to basics. They was brilliant again, both of them. He's a no nonsense centre half. He put his foot through the ball quite a few times, which I just watched and laughed and thought, I like that. I like to see that in this modern day because you don't really see it anymore. But he doesn't take no risks. And then you've got Murillo who takes the risks. Like Pete said, he gets on the edge. You see it every now and then. But both of them, they're a good partnership. They balance each other out. Murillo's the footballing one, and is the other one who's just going at it and clear up and be strong. So yeah, they complement each other really well.
Was that the one sort of disappointment last night, Kel? Because you referenced fullbacks getting early yellow cards. Calafiori got one, and I thought Hudson-Odoi was our best attacker and played well. But should we have got him the ball more, or were we just so pinned back by Arsenal? It was very difficult to do.
I think Hudson-Odoi, you've just mentioned it. I can't believe how much he was around his own 18-yard box. He defended so much last night, and I think that's why we didn't have the counter attack. But that's just getting back to the confidence, of Nuno just saying, right, we're probably here. Well, we are here because of the defensive, how solid we've been defensively. So let's get back to basics, and then hopefully they build on that in the next couple of weeks and getting the confidence back for the forward players. But last night it was a defensive job. You could tell that the old team had been drilled to. That was the main thing, to keep a clean sheet, because Callum Hudson-Odoi was. I can't believe, like I say, how much he was back in his own 18-yard box. But then, yeah, their fullback, he got an early yellow card, but he was playing centre forward. He was playing centre forward times. So it's like, how do you run at him and getting sent off? So they play a strange way. But then obviously Mikel Arteta noticed that, and it was a big risk. If he got sent off, they'll be knackered. They'll be struggling. So they dragged him at half time and brought on Kieran Tierney. And yeah, I think getting yellow cards, especially in the fullback areas, managers read it as well. And obviously that's why Mikel Arteta took him off. But yeah, Callum Hudson-Odoi was in the defensive area so much. I was really surprised. I was really surprised, and that made me feel like Nuno's obviously drilled this team today to keep a clean sheet, get back to basics, and hopefully build on it, like Peter said, over the next couple of. Because after the City game, like Pete said, you do look to then pick up the points that you need to finish in them European places.
Yeah, definitely. I do want to talk about the Arsenal tactics and how it impacted midfield. Just quickly on Hudson-Odoi, probably the only contentious moment of the game, refereeing-wise, was that penalty appeal. I don't know if you had a chance to watch it back, Pete, or not, or just seen it live in the ground. Any concrete thoughts on whether it was a penalty or not for you?
No, I don't think it's a pen. I mean, I guess it is one of those you could file under the sort of could go anyway, and probably isn't going to be interfered with either way if VAR gets involved. But no, I don't think I want to see those given as penalties in games. I guess the difficult thing is I have seen the replay, and I don't think the hand on the shoulder is enough from what I can see to give a penalty. But it's hard to tell what the sort of contact between the legs are, and I guess that's probably, I mean, Kelvin knows much better than me, obviously, but I feel that's probably the moment when you're most likely to sort of cause the little knock and the treading leg or whatever. That means, you know, going down there is sort of legitimate rather than a bit of gamesmanship or whatever. And it's sort of hard to tell what the contact's like, I think, from the replay that I've seen. So, you know, generally I'm sympathetic to attacking players running at goal in those moments, but going, you know, they're running at pace, they've got a lot of momentum, and, you know, a small touch can bring them down. But it didn't look like there was much in it to me, and I think I'd have been pretty disappointed if it had been given against us. So I'm not going to be moaning about it the whole way around.
I think it's a tough one, isn't it? I mean, you know, why go down in that position? You're in a great position, and he is a rapid winger, and a small touch, I'm sure, can bring you down. But then I agree with what you're saying. VAR isn't going to intervene in that because the ref hasn't given it. So, what about you, Cal? Was it a penalty?
No, I don't. It wasn't a penalty in my eyes. I think he's just overwrit it. I think he's took one touch too many, and he's decided to go down. That's my opinion. I think that's the worst thing. That as a defender. And I gave quite a few free kicks away of that. When you go to run and the player runs across you, and your knee might clip his heel, and his heel, then it's his other foot, it's his leg, and they fall over. And you think, how's that a fact? I can't run. I'm just running in a straight line. He's run across me. And it used to really frustrate me, but they are given. But I don't even think, because it's slowed down, I watched on TV, obviously, and his knee doesn't hit or his leg doesn't hit his foot, so his foot doesn't hit his other leg. It doesn't change direction. It was more the arm for me if it was going to be. So I don't think I think he just took a heavy touch, and I think he tried to, you know, think, right, I ain't going to get that. I felt a touch on my shoulder. Let me go down and see if I get that. And obviously he didn't get it. So no, it definitely wasn't a penalty for me.
Last point on the game, because we always do this. We spend more time than I think we're going to on stuff. But there's one other thing I want to talk about. It's always we talk about the midfield, and you know, that spot around Anderson. Dominguez is getting a lot of flack, I see, online for his performance, and I don't think he was overly good, but I think it's a bit harsh for me when we mentioned Calafiori's in there. Odegaard's dropping in there, Rice and Jorginho are in there. We were outnumbered again, so I do feel for Dominguez. But then Ryan Yates came on, and I thought he did really well. But he had Danilo around him, and we had an extra man. There's a lot going on there, Pete. What did you make of Dominguez and that situation? Is Yates got to come in now or not?
No, I think it's an open question. I think Dominguez, I mean, I've not looked online or anything, so I'm not aware of all the stick that you reference. I think Dominguez getting flack for last night is seriously harsh. I don't think he was at his absolute best, but as you say, I mean, totally overwhelmed in there. And to make comparisons to Yates and Danilo seems pretty hard, because obviously the game state is different as the game goes on. Fitness levels are different. And as you say, suddenly we had essentially three bodies in there, didn't we? Because Anderson was tucked in with Danilo in that sort of deeper playmaker role, I guess, and Yates as well. You've also got Gibbs White, who's coming off the wing and adding another body in there as well. So I think making the comparison is pretty outrageous. And also, I mean, on Dominguez's performance last night, I think it's one of those occasions, and it makes me think of the Taiwo in the cup against Newcastle, where actually he had a fine game, but then he smashed a penalty 400 yards over the bar, and everyone suddenly said, you know, Taiwo was dreadful. Dominguez obviously had a really weak moment where he gets really easily turned by Calafiori, and we're seriously lucky that we get away with Calafiori hitting the post in that moment and it bouncing safely. So I think you're just looking at the Dominguez performance through that lens, but it looked to me like he was covering the ground pretty well. I think he won quite a few tackles. I haven't got any stats on him, but you know, I don't think he was a big problem in there. I think in recent weeks he's really struggled, but so has everybody else. And we've been playing against good teams who have absolutely overwhelmed us through the middle of the pitch. And it goes back to what you're saying about Hudson-Odoi's performance. I'd imagine Nuno will be absolutely delighted with Hudson-Odoi, because I presume he was put out on that side because whilst he's not, you know, typically a sort of defensive workhorse, he's quite a bright footballer, I think. And having Calafiori playing that role where he's going to not only invert but then become some sort of mad false nine as well. It takes someone to tuck in and help and do a lot of work in that moment and to track the runs, and that's something that Elanga really struggles with. I think is players just running behind him, and they're gone, and suddenly we're overwhelmed. So I think it's harsh. Harsh on Dominguez. I don't think he had a particularly bad game. I think he was improved from recent sort of near disaster performances, and didn't stand out to me. But I think the midfield's an open question because it's just such a big ask, isn't it, against these good teams who often do outnumber us in midfield and outnumber us with quality. Who do you put there that can do all of that work that you need them to do? I think we need an outstanding number 6 to play alongside Elliot Anderson if we're going to play that system, or we, have to look at whether a 3 in midfield is the way in those games. But at the moment, I don't think we have the tools to have a sort of definitive answer in there. I think it's horses for courses, and maybe we're looking at that sort of set of options as starters and finishers in games, like yesterday, where you saw Yates and Danilo come on, and they both did a job in a different way, didn't they? Danilo was able to drop deep and get on the ball a little bit. They maybe gave us a little bit of control in those moments, bit of possession. And Yates came on, and I thought did a great job of being Ryan Yates. Winning free kicks, disrupting things, just being a real pain in the arse. So look, we are where we are with the options we've got. I think harsh on Dominguez, and I appreciate that maybe Nuno is trying to give someone a run in the role. I do think Dominguez has probably got the most complete game of all of the options. They're all flawed players, but players with qualities as well. So I'm not too sure what you say about that. But I think digging Dominguez out after last night feels pretty harsh.
Yeah, I think for me, you referenced the Calafiori thing, and he was very slow to close Rice down for a shot. And I think things like that really stand out in fans' minds, and they heighten things. But I don't think he was terrible at all. I don't think he's in the best form. And I think he's better in a 3-man midfield. I have doubts about him alongside Anderson in a 2. I think Yates is better in there, and maybe Danilo and Sangare. But Dominguez I think he's a good player, but he's a bit of an out of form player. So that's where I'm at on it. You're really keen for us to have a proper number 6, Kel. Where are you at on this whole midfield situation?
Yeah, I think I echo. I think they definitely need if they're going to play the 2, they need a number 6, a really good number 6 to play alongside Anderson. If not, if they're going to play the 3, for me, Dominguez is better than Danilo and Yates. That's just my opinion. For him to get the stick he's getting, you say. I'm not online, so I've not seen anything. I think that's absolutely ridiculous, to be quite honest with you. Apart from the chance where he's hit the post, yeah, he's got rolled. It happens. He's got rolled. They've hit the post. They haven't scored. Can he close the shot down? Yeah. Was the other shots or other situations where players could have done certain things last night? Absolutely. I've seen a number of things where I was screaming at TV for players to get up or edit or this and that. So I don't know who's started this little thing on Dominguez being awful. Yes, he wasn't brilliant. No, he wasn't. But I don't think a lot of the players weren't brilliant last night. They did a job. As a team, they did a job and they did it well. No one was brilliant. No one was poor. It was a team effort, and I thought it was a good team effort to get the point and to build the confidence up after the run of results that have happened. So for me, Dominguez, yeah, he wasn't brilliant, but he wasn't poor enough to be talking about him as being rubbish and he needs to be replaced now. No, absolutely not. But yeah, I definitely think that, and I said it, I think obviously with the injury of Tayo, I think we do need a striker. But I think the big signing needs to be a number 6. I think, depending on the way Nuno wants to play. If he wants to play with a 3, will he get away with the players he's got now? Probably, because they are good players. They're Premiership players. So if you put 3 in there, 3 of them can help each other out and do a job in midfield. Now, if he wants to play 2, yeah, he's gonna need a really good, experienced number 6 just to play in front of the back 4, and let Anderson go and join in and be the attacking one. Where you find that, I don't know. How much they cost you, I don't know. But I'm sure whatever the situation, whatever decision Nuno's going to go for, he'll have, the wheels are being motion now to deal with what he wants to do in the summer. All the targets, I'm sure, are there on a piece of paper on the owner's desk.
Yeah, I think so. It's a difficult role. We're playing. Don't forget, we've played a lot of good teams away from home. I think Danilo did play badly at Fulham. Dominguez has been off it, and Yates' first half at Bournemouth wasn't great, but I think it's a bit overblown. Let's see how we go against the teams in the middle of the table and the lower half, and we've been really good, and we can probably get away with and manage having fewer men in midfield, and then we review it in the summer. But I thought Dominguez was fine yesterday, and Anderson was better. I think he's had a dip in form as well, but there's probably less of a spotlight on him because he's completely nailed in the team. We'll talk about that final, assessing the big Champions League picture before we go. Just before that, our second advert and sponsors of today are NordVPN. So we shall see you on the other side of this ad. Thanks NordVPN for sponsoring this episode. You've probably heard of NordVPN before without looking into what they do. So I will try and tell you about them in my own unique style. Basically, it's a way to maintain your privacy online, protect your data, and give security on public networks. It's also a great way of changing your location to be anywhere in the world online. So, Mark Southerns, you might wonder why he is with me. He is an avid user of NordVPN, and he can tell you a little bit more about how he uses it as an international jet-setting man of mystery.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I got into NordVPN about 6 months ago, and I just subscribe now regularly. I think I buy the annual deal. They do have a 30-day money back guarantee, which kind of attracted me originally, but I never took that up because I found it very useful. Use it when I'm abroad. I get to travel a bit, so when I'm out in Sofia and I want to watch the live games, I can use it to access the live games when I'm abroad, which is very, very useful. Also, I've got it on all my devices, my phone and my iPad, and just have it on all the time, and that's very useful when myself or the kids are using those devices on public networks, like in coffee shops and stuff, which they do a lot. So gives me peace of mind in that kind of situation. And just, all round, very, very useful.
You've got 24/7 support. You've got a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if it's not working out for you, you can get your money back and it's cost you nothing. On top of that, you can get an exclusive discount on a new plan by going to nordvpn.com/Forest Focus.
Really stepping your advert game up, aren't you?
I'm so good at those ad reads, aren't I? Yeah.
Wow.
Thanks to Mark for carrying that.
Was that scripted for Mark or not?
No. It was
Wow.
it was a WhatsApp at 10 to 5 saying, "Can you help me with this advert?" And then, to be honest, I know he's done those ads before for FPL Black Box that he does, so I knew he could carry the load there. So yeah, thanks to Mark, thanks to NordVPN. Right, let's talk about the Champions League picture then before we go. Forest are third, 48 points. Arsenal are second. I think they're out of it. So we're third, 48 points. Man City 1 point behind us in fourth. Chelsea beat, I was going to say a Sunday League team. That's a bit disrespectful. Beat a very bad Premier League team in Southampton, so they're back up to fifth. Newcastle are 4 points behind us in sixth, and it's Bournemouth, Brighton, Fulham, and Aston Villa. So that's the table. This is a quick look at the sort of generalising the upcoming fixtures. Paul Morley, who was on last night, did this. People who are listening, not watching, it's got all the teams who are in the race and their remaining fixtures bracketed by games against the top two, 3rd to 10th, 11th to 16th, and the bottom four. And if you look at it, only us and Man City don't play any of the top two. We've got 3 games against 3rd to 10th, and that goes from us with 3, Chelsea with 3, Newcastle with 3, Bournemouth with 3, and then Villa have got 6 teams. Fulham have got a really tough run in. And the general gist is we've got 8 games now out of 11 against teams who are in the bottom half of the table, and 2 of those are in the bottom 4. So it looks a favourable run in. If you put all that into context altogether, Kelv, how are you feeling about this race for the Champions League? Do you think we're going to get there or not?
Very confident, seeing it put to me that way. You've got to be confident. I think obviously we've had a little bit of a wobble with performances and results, but you hope that last night's performance, it's gave them a little bit more confidence now as players, and they can build on it. I want to say I'm confident for Champions League football. I want to say, but I think, the teams around, the Man Cities, the Chelseas, even the Villas to an extent, they're experienced enough to finish the running and get there. I don't think we're playing against teams that are better than us or that are going to beat us. It'll be more, can the players handle the pressure, and can the players deal with the running? You know, it's the end of the season. You don't want players to be on the beach too early. You don't want them to be ticking off games thinking, all right, yeah, it's nearly done now. Got a couple of months off, a few weeks off, whatever it may be. You know, you want everyone's mindset in the right place. And I think that will be Nuno's biggest thing to his players will be, you know, just give me the next X amount of weeks, boys, and you'll get a nice summer and enjoy yourselves. But just for the next few weeks, just give me your all. And I think if they do that, I think with the teams that they're playing, yeah, I'll be confident.
Just looking at the actual teams we are playing then, Pete, and again, I said this last night, you can spin narratives around any game, but we've got, there's a run of Man United at home, Villa away, Everton at home, Spurs away, Brentford at home, Palace away, and then it's the last 3 games. But you could look at, right now, things can change, obviously, you know, Palace away is in May, but right now they look a good team. Tottenham are Tottenham, Everton are improved, we've got them in April, Villa away is a tough game. So you can spin it in your head any way you want, I guess. How are you feeling about it?
Pretty good, I think, actually. I guess for a few reasons. Firstly, what I said earlier about the form of the other sides. If none of them are really making a desperate case for overtaking us, are they? We've obviously got the points in the bag in terms of having a little cushion from Newcastle and Bournemouth in those spots that I guess are the biggest concern if we think the top 5 is going to be Champions League. So, I mean, I look at the fixture list and I think even with our sort of difficulties in form and such like, 5 wins, I think seems pretty achievable for us from those 11 games. And I think that probably does it, doesn't it? You know, especially with a draw or 2 sprinkled in there, because can you really see, obviously anything can happen, but can you really see Newcastle or Bournemouth getting 7 out of the 11, or, you know, getting enough to match that and go more? I think we probably should be okay. Obviously, we'll see, and things change so quickly, don't they? I mean, not very long ago, you'd have been thinking, well, Everton's a bit of a banker for you, and then suddenly everything changes there, and you know that can be the case for other upcoming games. I guess that there are other big factors, aren't there? One of the things that I suppose is maybe reassuring is that a lot of those games are going to be against teams that have got very little to play for, because, you know, 11 or 12 down, I think it's all sort of done and dusted, isn't it, really? That those teams aren't going to be making the European chase. And also, realistically, I think the relegation battle is going to be done pretty soon, because Wolves are pulling away and they just look a much better side right now. I think Ipswich have made a sort of valiant battle of it, but just not quite had the quality to do it. Leicester and Southampton are just absolutely dreadful to varying degrees. And I think those things being sorted pretty early, or it feels like pretty early, usually I'm not having to worry about what's going on in these sorts of scenarios because we've never been here before. But it feels like there's not an awful lot of battle left there. And therefore, maybe there's going to be a lot of teams, you know, pressure off, and fingers crossed that plays in our favour, rather than them being super relaxed in a good way. They'll be super relaxed in a let's let Forest break on us, and Chris Wood can get a handful more goals on the way to us securing top 5.
2 quick final questions then, both for Kelv, and then I'll ask Pete if he wants to weigh in as well. Well, this one's definitely for you, Kelv, because Pete hasn't played in professional football. Is there anything in the kind of on the beach end of season thing? You know, you're a team that's 12th, 14th, got nothing to play for, versus a team in the playoffs or chasing a playoff place. Is that a real thing, the on the beach thing? Does it play into matches late season or not?
Yeah, I think so. I think players. It depends, you know. You do your kind. If you've got nothing to play for, if you know you're not going to go down, you know you're not going to go up. Yeah, you know you are. You can't wait till you're on that beach. Saying that though, that don't mean that you're going into games on a Saturday. Like I said earlier on, no player goes into a game tossing it off. You know you've got fans, you've got family, you've got everyone watching, you've got eyes on you, cameras on you, so you don't want to embarrass yourself. So players won't be going in and tossing it off. But yeah, that you do. If you've got nothing to play for, if you're safe or you can't win the league, yeah, you know, you are ticking the games off, hoping for, you know, looking forward to the summer, because you've got nothing else to look forward to. You can't win a medal. You can't, you know, you're not going to go down. So it is just about getting the job done, finishing the season, and getting on holiday. But so yeah, I do believe the running that Forest have got, the teams that haven't got anything to play for, you definitely want to be playing them teams.
Last question as well for Kel. We discussed this last night. I think we've discussed it a few times, just from a fan point of view. From a player point of view, would you rather get in the Champions League because you've heard that music and you know what it means, or would you rather win the FA Cup? Forest are still in it, obviously. You can have that medal round your neck. If you had to pick one, Kel, which would you prefer?
For me, it's a no-brainer, to be quite honest with you. It would be to play in the Champions League, absolutely, yeah. I played up in Scotland. Obviously, it's completely different. We won the equivalent to the FA Cup. We won the Scottish Cup. Obviously, the FA Cup's worldwide. It's well known. It's massive. But yeah, Champions League, absolutely, hands down. No, I don't even have to think about it. I'd want to do it. I think the amount of players that played in the Premier League, even players that have won the FA Cup, they've never played in the Champions League. Some people say, "Oh, he's had a great career. He's played in the Premier League all his life." But you've just played in the Premier League, never won the Premier League, never won anything, but just played in the Premier League. Yeah, you can win the FA Cup, but the pinnacle of a player's club career is playing Champions League football. You're playing against the best players, playing on the best pitches. So yeah, that's my own opinion. Some players will say the FA Cup, I'm sure, but yeah, for me, Champions League, it's there's nothing like it. There's absolutely nothing like it.
Good to ask someone who's actually played in the Champions League to give us a take. Pete, do you want to add anything to that in terms of just from a fan point of view? I'm sure we've discussed this before, so you've probably given an answer, but feel free to if you've got any take on it.
I think it's a very different question for players and fans, isn't it? Because obviously we're not the ones going out there on the pitch and performing to the sort of the highest level in European football. So I totally see it from the player's point of view. I mean, as a fan, I think the day out and winning the FA Cup and then having a European campaign off the back of it would trump that personally. But I mean, they both seem pretty good. I'd be quite happy to do either.
I think with that as well, Matt. I think with the FA Cup, we're in a good position with the teams that are out and where they are now. And you think, we could win it. We've got a great chance. That could happen next year, the year after, the year after. I don't think Forest are in a better position to be in the Champions League again. I don't think this will be the case, next season. I think we'll build on the team. I think we'll have a better squad. But so will the bigger clubs. The Man U's have to be better. The Chelsea's have to be better. Tottenham's have to be better. So I think there will be no better chance of being in Champions League for Forest, I think, than this. So that's why I'd pick the Champions League now for Forest over the FA Cup, because the FA Cup will be there for years and years and years to come. And I know people, they thought so Champions League to get into it. It's harder to get into the Champions League than to win the FA Cup.
It's not a bad debate to have, anyway, as we said that last night. Right, I think we shall leave it there. If you have enjoyed this, and I hope you have, because I thought it was a really good discussion, do us a favour, hit like, hit subscribe, do look at channel membership or Patreon, or just give us a lovely review on iTunes or Apple Podcasts. Right, we'll be back tomorrow. Will we? Yeah, we'll have an Ipswich preview tomorrow. Yeah, with Temps and Paul. I think that's at 10 a.m. And then we'll have a post-match show on Monday. I'm not sure there's an opposition preview this week. The quick turnaround in games is making it a bit tricky, but I'll do my best to bring that to you. Pete, anything you want to add before we go?
No, nothing from me. I've really enjoyed listening to Kelvin's perspectives from the player side of things. It's really hard for us to get our head around lots of this stuff, isn't it? What really goes on in their heads and in the dressing room. So that's been great. No, really enjoyed it. Cheers. Good.
Kelv, anything from you before you make another peppermint tea? Is that straight on the menu after this or not?
Oh, straight to the gym after, yeah.
Oh man, you'd be disgusted with me last night. I think maybe it's the first time in 11 years, and my daughter's 11. I had the house to myself because they all went out to a Young Voices concert, and I ordered kebab, dips, curry sauce, collected that before the game. And that was the thing I treated myself. I mean, getting to your personal life here, do you actually eat junk food, Kelv, or not, to stay in that shape?
Yeah, I don't always watch what I eat. I do like healthy food, so I'll eat it. But yeah, I'll have my daughters at the weekend whatever they choose. But to be fair, they're good eaters as well. They don't really like McDonald's and things like that. But Matt, I do like a kebab, mate. I'm a sucker for a kebab. So yeah, I know where you're coming from with that.
Are we talking doner kebab, shish kebab, lamb or chicken, kofta kebab?
A bit of everything, but I do like I like the Turkish kebabs. They're nice, but I do like a good doner kebab. Yeah. I do like it.
I'm a consistent lamb shish man. Pete, do you want to weigh in on this before we go?
Yeah, I like the minced chicken Turkish ones that are on the the lovely long skewer where they're all sort of imprinted.
Yeah.
I like those guys. I can't remember what the right name for that is. And just to think, Matt, you're only a few kebabs out of your diet away from marking Messi in the Champions League. That's the only difference between you guys, isn't
it? Yeah, that's it. Yeah, natural talent, application, willing to sacrifice to get to the top. Yeah, all that.
Yeah,
stuff.
everything, really, isn't it?
Basically, yeah. I missed out shawarma kebabs as well, didn't I? There, that shows where my expertise is. Right, we shall leave it there. Thanks to Kelv, thanks to Pete. Do drop your favourite kebab in the comments after this, and some football chat if you want as well. Like I say, we'll be back tomorrow, but if we don't see you then, we shall see you soon.